This is the final look from this Halloween tutorial. In this video I'm going to show you how I created this entire werewolf makeup, which was so much fun to do, so I really hope that you enjoy watching it. Okay, so to start I'm blocking out the ends of my brows. I'm using the Too Faced Shadow Insurance glitter glue to stick my hairs down, and I'm using a flat metal spatula and just flattening my hair up against my skin. Once they are flat and stuck down, I'm just powdering over my brows so the glue isn't tacky. Before blocking my brows out further, I'm just drawing a guide of where my new brow is going to be. I'm using an angle brush and dip brow in the shade dark brown, and I'm going in a straight line cutting through my arch. I'm then going to start concealing the hairs. I'm firstly using the NYX Above and Beyond concealer with the Real Techniques concealer brush, and then I'm powdering it before adding the next layer. As a colour corrector for the dark hairs, I'm using a reddy orange concealer. I'm using the Kryolan Derma Colour Camouflage palette, and I'm going in with the shade D32, and I'm just dabbing it on with my finger. The final layer is to cover the red concealer, and I'm using the shade D50 from the same palette. I'm patting this on top and then carving out the rest of my brows underneath using that same Real Techniques brush. Try to avoid pulling the product, so patting the product on and ensuring you powder between the layers is the best way to do it to prevent the colours from merging. For my base I wanted a really heavy coverage, so I'm mixing the NYX Stay Matte But Not Flat foundation and Illamasqua skin base. I'm just applying it all over with the LA Page Trends little face shaping brush, and then I'm blending it out with the Real Techniques contour brush. The concealer I'm using is Urban Decay Naked Skin, and I'm applying this on my forehead, my chin and all under my eyes. I'm just buffing this out with the new flat top kabuki brush. To contour I'm using LA Girl Pro Conceal in the shade Dark Cocoa, and I'm applying quite a lot along my cheekbones and then down the sides of my nose. I'm blending it out with the Real Techniques Expert Face Brush on my cheeks, and I'm dragging the product down to really hollow out my cheeks and make it look almost sunken in. And then to blend out my nose contour I'm using the new Small Concealer Kabuki brush. I love a completely matte finish, so I'm applying Ben Nye translucent powder all over my face. Then using the sponge from the contour sponge, I'm applying more powder to bake under my eyes, under my cheekbones, my chin and down my nose. This also means once I've applied my eye makeup I can brush away the powder, which will take away all of the fallout. Salts palette, and the first shade I'm going in with is Raw Sienna with the fluffy end of an Urban Decay brush from one of their palettes. I'm applying it into the crease and dragging the product all the way up, following the line of my brow to create almost like a wing. Out of the Cargo Vintage Escape palette, I'm using the MAC 217 brush and I'm blending it all out. Going back to the Modern Renaissance palette, I'm now using the shade Cypress Umber, which is like a warm dark brown, and I'm using a small shading brush to really define the crease. To really get that werewolf look, I need to change the shape of my eyes a bit more. This will fit in with the angled eyeshadow look that I've already done, so to make the inner corners of my eyes look pointed, I'm using the MAC 210 brush with a dark brown eyeshadow. I'm just going to draw a line pointing downwards, avoiding the tear duct area. Then using Cypress Umber again, I'm going under my eyes, blending it into that new line that I've created under my tear duct. The liner I'm using in my waterline is MAC Eye Kohl in the shade Smolder, and I'm applying it from the outer corner up to the new line that I've drawn, still keeping the tear duct area empty. To line my eyes, I'm using MAC Fluid Line in the shade Black Track. I'm starting off in the inner corner and I'm doing a point to really make my eyes look elongated. Then I'm going to line along my lash line right to the end to then create a long wing. I don't want the liner too thick though, as I want the eyeshadow to be the main focus, so I'm keeping it fairly thin using the MAC 210 brush. So I've just applied mascara and now I'm going in darkening up my eyeshadow, and then I'm adding black eyeshadow underneath my eyes. Next up I'm finishing off my brows. Using dip brow and an angle brush, I'm drawing small hair strokes in an upwards direction. The lashes I'm using are by Alexandra Lashes in the style Skylar, and I'm just applying these with tweezers and the Isla lash adhesive. Going back to the Modern Renaissance palette, I'm using the shade Primavera and filling in the area that I left blank near my tear duct. Now I'm sweeping away the powder under my eyes as I finish my eyeshadow, and then I'm just going to go over my eyeliner to hide the lash band and the dried glue. So now that my eyes are done, it's time to finish off the face makeup. I'm going to go really dark with the contour, and this is where the whole werewolf look will start to come into place. I'm starting by using Benefit Hoola Bronzer, and I'm hollowing out my cheekbones and darkening around my forehead. Now I'm going to start going darker, so I'm using the powder contour kit from Lick & Lash Beauty, and I'm going to use the two darkest shades in the palette. I'm really carving out my cheekbones and adding a lot of depth to my forehead right up to my hairline. Now I'm going to go even darker, so I'm using Cypress Umber from the Modern Renaissance palette, and I'm going over the same areas to darken them. I'm really working it in, blending it out, but I still want to keep it really dark and defined. For that long, thin, wolf-like nose, I'm going to go dark with the nose contour, blending out slightly, but I want the definition to really be there, and then I'm darkening the whole area at the end of my nose. I'm then using the dark brown dip brow with that same angled brush that I use for my brows, and I'm adding hair strokes in all along my hairline and my cheekbones. I'm then using the Meron Paradise paints, and I'm mixing the black and brown together and getting a gradient effect from my skin right into my hair. To highlight, I'm using the Sleek Solstice palette, and I'm going to use the shade Equinox. I'm applying lots on my cheekbones, down my nose, on my forehead and on my cupid's bow, and the brush I'm using for this is from the Bow Bell Rose Gold collection, and it's actually an eyeshadow brush, but I prefer to use it to apply my highlighter. To line my lips, I'm using the Bare Minerals lip liner in the shade Earth. The first lipstick that I'm using is from MAC, and it's the shade Stone, and I'm just applying this all over my lips. Then for the ombre effect, I'm going to add a lighter lipstick in the centre of my lips. The lipstick that I'm using is by Lipland, and it's in the shade Nakey. I'm just popping this in the centre of my lips, then using a lip brush to blend it out. Now that my face makeup is completely done, it's time to start the special effects. I'm creating big slashes on my neck and chest, and for this I'm going to be using liquid latex. Using a cotton bud, I'm quickly drawing it on to see where the scratches are going to be. Then once I'm happy with that, I'll add more latex to thicken the lines. I need a thick layer, as I'll be adding strips of ripped up tissue, and the tissue has to be completely saturated, so then I'll apply more latex on top of it. Once it's dry after about 10 minutes, I can then powder it with translucent powder. This will ensure it's not tacky, and it makes it easier to start cutting it. Now to create the slashes, I'm pulling the latex out so I can cut a hole. Once I have that hole, I then use that to cut along to open up the centre using both scissors and my fingers to pull it apart. Once I've cut open all 5 lines, I'm then using Krylon grease paints to colour it in. I'm taking the deep red shade on a cotton bud and focusing on the areas in the middle of the latex onto my skin and really roughly colouring it in. Now I'm going to apply foundation over the latex to cover up the white colour so it will blend into my skin. Now I'm going to darken the cuts to make them look like real deep wounds, so I'm going back in with that deep red colour and then the dark brown around the edges. Finally, to add texture to the cuts, I'm using Ben Nye Fresh Scab and applying it with a cotton bud. So this is the finished Halloween werewolf look. This tutorial was so much fun to do, so I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and happy Halloween. Now that my face makeup is completely done, it's time to start the special effects. I'm creating big slashes on my neck and chest, and for this I'm going to be using liquid latex. Using a cotton bud, I'm quickly drawing it on to see where the scratches are going to be. Then once I'm happy with that, I'll add more latex to thicken the lines. I need a thick layer, as I'll be adding strips of ripped up tissue, and the tissue has to be completely saturated, so then I'll apply more latex on top of it. Once it's dry after about 10 minutes, I can then powder it with translucent powder. This will ensure it's not tacky, and it makes it easier to start cutting it. Now to create the slashes, I'm pulling the latex out so I can cut a hole. Once I have that hole, I then use that to cut along to open up the centre using both scissors and my fingers to pull it apart. Once I've cut open all 5 lines, I'm then using Krylon grease paints to colour it in. I'm taking the deep red shade on a cotton bud and focusing on the areas in the middle of the latex onto my skin and really roughly colouring it in. Now I'm going to apply foundation over the latex to cover up the white colour so it will blend into my skin. Now I'm going to darken the cuts to make them look like real deep wounds, so I'm going back in with that deep red colour and then the dark brown around the edges. Finally, to add texture to the cuts, I'm using Ben Nye Fresh Scab and applying it with a cotton bud. So this is the finished Halloween werewolf look. This tutorial was so much fun to do, so I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and happy Halloween.